First contact on Kepler-442. The crimson sun of Kepler-442b cast long shadows across the settlement. Perimeter as 12-year-old Emma Rodriguez crept toward the energy fence. Her younger brother Jake followed close behind, his freckled face scrunched with worry. The alien world had been their home for 2 years, but the mysterious wilderness beyond the safety barriers still called to Emma's adventurous spirit. The warning Science Colony Commander Patricia Williams had made the rules crystal clear. No human was to venture beyond the marked boundaries. The indigenous species, known as Vorthok, were highly intelligent predators standing 8 feet tall with razor-sharp claws and adaptive camouflage abilities. The peace treaty between humans and Vorthok had held for 3 years, but tensions remained high on both sides. A curious discovery: Emma pressed her face against the energy barrier, watching the alien forest sway in the purple ting breeze. Strange crystalline structures dotted the ground near the boundary, pulsing with soft bioluminescent light. Jake tugged at her sleeve nervously, but Emma's scientific curiosity overrode her caution. She had inherited her mother's love for xenobiology, and these formations looked unlike anything in their database. The appearance of shadow's movement in the undergrowth made both children freeze. Through the alien vegetation, 3 smaller forms emerged into the clearing. They were Vorthok juveniles, perhaps half the size of adults, but still imposing with their sleek, muscular builds and intelligent amber eyes. Their fur shifted colors from deep green to silver gray as they moved, a natural camouflage system that had evolved over millions of years. First visual contact: largest juvenile, distinguished by distinctive blue markings along its spine, approached the boundary with confident steps. Its movements were fluid and purposeful, showing none of the aggression that human colonists had been warned about. Emma found herself captivating by the creature's grace and obvious intelligence. The other 2 juveniles followed, their body language curious rather than threatening, breaking protocol against every safety protocol she had been taught. Emma placed her palm against the energy barrier. The Vorthok juvenile tilted its head, studying her with remarkable intelligence. It extended one clawed hand toward the barrier, mirroring Emma's gesture. The moment felt electric with possibility, a bridge across the species divide that had defined life on Kepler-442b. Jake's fear and wonder. Jake grabbed Emma's arm, his voice barely a whisper. The colony's warning systems hadn't activated, suggesting the juveniles weren't considered immediate threats. The energy barrier hummed softly between the 2 species, a technological reminder of the careful distance both civilizations maintained. Yet something in the juveniles' behavior suggested they were as curious about humans as Emma was about them. The universal language eth blue-marked juvenile made a soft chirping sound, almost like a question. Acting on pure instinct, Emma attempted to mimic the sound. The result was clumsy but recognizable, and the young Vorthok's eyes widened with what appeared to be delight. It chirped again, more complex this time, and Emma tried to respond. Jake watched in amazement as his sister began the first interspecies conversation in the colony's history. A moment of understanding. The other juveniles joined the communication attempt, creating a symphony of clicks, chirps, and melodic sounds. Emma found herself responding with humming and vocal patterns that felt strangely natural. The barrier between them seemed less like a wall and more like a temporary inconvenience. For the first time since arriving on Kepler-442b, Emma felt truly connected to their new world. The promise of tomorrow as the alien sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. The juvenile Vorthok stepped back from the barrier. The blue-marked one placed its hand against a nearby crystal formation, which pulsed brighter in response. It looked directly at Emma and made a sound that somehow conveyed the promise of return. The children had discovered something their parents and leaders had failed to achieve, proof that friendship could transcend the boundaries between species. The foundation for an extraordinary bond had been laid in those precious moments of first contact, setting the stage for events that would change both civilizations forever. The return 3 days after their first encounter, Emma and Jake found themselves drawn back to the boundary like magnets. The crystal formations seemed brighter, pulsing with an almost welcoming rhythm. Emma had spent sleepless nights thinking about the blue-marked juvenile, wondering if their brief communication had meant as much to it as it had to her. Scheduled Encounters to their amazement. The three Vorthok juveniles were waiting at the boundary when they arrived. The blue-marked one, whom Emma had begun thinking of as Azure, approached the barrier immediately. The other two, distinctive for their silver and gold markings, followed with eager steps. It became clear that these meetings were as important to the young Vorthok as they were to the human children. Developing communication over several secret meetings, Emma and Jake developed a complex system of communication with their new friends. Hand gestures combined with vocal sounds created a bridge language that both species could understand. Azure proved particularly adept at learning human gestures, while the silver-marked juvenile, whom Jake named Sterling, seemed to excel at emotional communication through body language. Learning about each other's sessions became educational exchanges. Emma would draw pictures in the dirt showing human technology, family structures, and daily life. The Vorthok juveniles responded by creating intricate patterns with the crystal formations, demonstrating mathematical concepts and stellar navigation techniques that astounded the human children. Their intelligence clearly matched or exceeded human capabilities. The third friend, the gold-marked juvenile, quieter but equally intelligent, began bringing objects from the forest, unusual plants, interesting stones, and even small technological devices that looked distinctly non-human in origin. Emma realized they were being shown Vorthok technology, evidence of an advanced civilization that chose to live in harmony with nature rather than dominate it. Growing bonds. Jake overcame his initial fear and formed a special connection with Sterling. The silver-marked Vorthok seemed to understand Jake's quieter nature, communicating through gentle touches against the barrier and patient demonstrations. Emma watched her brother blossom with confidence as he successfully learned to interpret Sterling's complex gestural language. Understanding emotion's most remarkable discovery came when Emma realized the Vorthok juveniles were capable of expressing complex emotions. Azure showed what could only be described as humor, creating amusing patterns with the crystals that made Emma laugh. Sterling demonstrated sadness when the children had to leave, and the gold-marked one, whom they named Aurelius, showed obvious excitement when learning about human space travel. Technological exchange. During one particularly memorable meeting, Aurelius brought a device that projected three-dimensional holograms into the air. Above the boundary stones, the images showed detailed maps of the forest, the human colony, and even star charts of the surrounding solar system. Emma realized the Vorthok had been studying human colonists just as carefully as humans had been studying them. The weight of secrets. As their friendship deepened, Emma began to feel the burden of keeping their meetings secret. Colony Administrator Thomas Chen had been asking questions about the children's frequent absences. Security Chief Linda Park had noticed unusual energy readings near the boundary. The secret was becoming harder to maintain with each passing day. Parents concerned her. Michael Rodriguez, Emma's father and the colony's chief engineer, had begun restricting her movements after noticing her distracted behavior. Jake's increased confidence had not gone unnoticed by their mother, Rebecca Rodriguez, who suspected her children were hiding something significant. The pressure of maintaining their secret was beginning to affect their family relationships. Adult awareness sunk low to the children. Their meetings had not gone completely unnoticed. Vorthok adults had been observing from the forest shadows, just as colony security systems had detected the unusual gatherings. Both species leaders were aware that something unprecedented was happening at the boundary, but neither wanted to interfere without understanding the full situation. Planning for the future. During their most recent meeting, Azure had begun making gestures that Emma interpreted as questions about the future. The young Vorthok seemed to understand that their secret meetings could not continue indefinitely. Through their developing language, Azure communicated what Emma understood as a desire for their species to meet openly, without barriers or secrets. The decision point. As Emma and Jake walked home after another successful meeting, they both knew their secret world was coming to an end. The growing friendship with Azure, Sterling, and Aurelius had shown them possibilities their parents and leaders had never imagined. Tomorrow, they would have to decide whether to reveal their friendship or continue living a double life. That was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. The choice would change everything for both species. Discovery and confrontation. Morning of truth. Dawn broke over Kepler-4 with unusual brightness. As Emma and Jake made their way to what they sensed would be their final secret meeting, the familiar path to the boundary stones felt different somehow, charged with anticipation and nervous energy. Emma carried a small recorder, hoping to document their communication system for posterity, while Jake clutched a drawing he had made of their 3 Vorthic friends. An unexpected welcome as they approached the boundary. Both children froze in shock. Colony Commander Patricia Williams stood beside the energy barrier with a full security team, her weathered face showing a mixture of concern and fascination. Behind her, Dr. Michael Rodriguez and Security Chief Linda Park spoke quietly into their communication devices, their expressions tense but controlled. Caught in the act, Emma's heart raced as Commander Williams called out to them. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had been tracking their movements for days. There was no point in denying their secret meetings now. Emma stepped forward, her chin raised with the defiance that had gotten her into this situation in the first place. The Vorthic responsees, if summoned by the tension in the air, Azure, Sterling, and Aurelius appeared at the forest edge, but they were not alone. 3 massive adult Vorthic emerged from the trees, their imposing forms moving with fluid grace despite their size. Even at a distance, their intelligence was unmistakable as they observed the human gathering with scientific curiosity. Preventing escalation, security team's weapons powered up with a soft whine. But Commander Williams raised her hand for them to hold position. Her years of diplomatic experience told her they were witnessing something unprecedented. Any aggressive action could destroy whatever progress the children had made, and potentially restart the conflicts that had marked early human-Vorthic relations. The adults meet the largest adult Vorthic, whose blue markings identified it as likely Azure's parent, stepped forward with regal dignity. When it spoke, its voice was a rich, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. The colony's translation software, enhanced by weeks of the children's recorded conversations, provided a real-time interpretation of the complex vocalizations. Formal introductions. Calmed Williams stepped forward with careful diplomatic protocol. She introduced herself and the other adult humans, explaining their roles in the colony's leadership structure. The adult Vorthic's response rippled through the translation system with surprising clarity, identifying themselves as the keepers of knowledge and expressing their awareness of the children's meetings. Revelations of observation. Conversation revealed startling truths that neither species had fully understood. The adult Vorthic had been watching the human colonists for years, studying their technology, social structures, and environmental impact. They had been preparing for this moment, waiting for the right opportunity to establish genuine contact beyond the formal peace treaty. The children's defensema found her voice, speaking directly to both groups of adults. She explained how Azure, Sterling, and Aurelius had taught them about Vorthic mathematics, science, and philosophy. Jake, overcoming his usual shyness, demonstrated some of the gestural language they had learned, causing visible surprise among both human and Vorthic adults. Technological demonstrations area approached the boundary stones and activated a device that created 3-dimensional holographic displays showing the history of both species. On Kepler-4, the images revealed the careful balance the Vorthic had maintained, managing their environment while developing advanced technology that worked in harmony with natural systems. Understanding differences. Rodriguez, Emma's father, stepped forward with scientific excitement. Barely contained, he recognized that the Vorthic had achieved what human civilization was still struggling to accomplish: advanced technology that enhanced rather than damaged their world. The implications for human development were staggering. The wisdom of youth. Azure approached the boundary stones and began the familiar ritual of communication that had started everything. But this time, the gesture was formal, ritualistic, performed before both sets of adults. The young Vorthax was demonstrating to their elders what Emma and Jake had proven to theirs: that genuine friendship could bridge any gap between species. Breaking down barriers, Commander Williams made a decision that would be remembered in the histories of both species. She ordered the security team to power down their weapons and step back. Then she approached the boundary herself, extending her hand toward the barrier in the same gesture that Emma had made weeks earlier. The adult responsive lead Vorthic adult approached the other side of the boundary and extended one massive clawed hand. For a moment, two civilizations were represented by their leaders reaching across the divide that technology and fear had created. The gesture was symbolic, but its meaning resonated with every individual present. A new chapter begins as both groups of adults began formal communications. Through the translation system, Emma and Jake realized their secret friendship had accomplished something remarkable. They had proven that trust, curiosity, and genuine caring could overcome the barriers of species, language, and cultural differences. Their childhood adventure had become the foundation for a new chapter in interspecies relations. The boundary, stones that once marked division now stood as monuments to the possibility of unity. The reckoningth morning started like any other in their quiet routine. Kelrin was in the kitchen, attempting to make the human breakfast called pancakes while Elias reviewed medical journals. 3 weeks of recovery had transformed her. She moved with less rigid military bearing, smiled more readily, and had begun wearing her white hair loose around her shoulders instead of in severe braids. She was humming something she'd heard on the radio, a human habit that would have been unthinkable in her former life. The sharp knock on the door shattered their peaceful morning like glass. Elias looked up from his reading, frowning. I'm not expecting anyone, but the rhythmic pattern of the knocking 3 short, too long. 3 short made Kelrin's blood freeze. Zyrethi military code, she whispered, her face going pale. They've found me. Before Elias could respond, the door exploded inward. 3 figures in dark armor swept into the apartment. With practiced efficiency, weapons trained on both occupants. The leader, a tall female with the ceremonial scars of a high-ranking officer, removed her helmet to reveal features similar to Kelrin's but harder. More severe, War Sister Kelrin, the leader said in the harsh Zyrethi tongue. I am Commander Vexenara, you will come with us immediately. Kelrin stepped protectively in front of Elias, her body instinctively moving into a defensive stance despite her injuries. I am still recovering from wounds sustained in battle. Wounds that should have killed you honorably, Vexenara replied. Coldly, instead, you chose surrender and collaboration with the enemy. The penalty for such dishonor is death. She didn't surrender, Elias said, trying to keep his voice steady. She was unconscious when I found her. I gave medical aid. Silence, human. Vexenara's weapon swung toward him. Your interference has prolonged her shame long enough. Kelrin felt something fierce and protective rise in her chest, an emotion she'd never experienced before. You will not harm him. He saved my life. He corrupted you, Vexenara sneered, taking in Kelrin's civilian clothes, her loose hair, the domestic scene around them. Look at yourself. You wear their clothing, eat their food, live in their dwelling. Like some pet. You have forgotten what it means to be Zyrethi. No, Kelrin said quietly, surprising everyone including herself. I've learned what it means to be alive. The admission hung in the air. Like a confession, the other Zyrethi soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Such emotional displays were forbidden among their kind. Vexenara's expression turned to disgust. You are no longer my war sister. You are infected by human weakness. She raised her weapon. I will end your dishonor quickly. Elias moved without thinking, placing himself between Kelrin and the weapon. If you wanted to kill her, you'll have to go through me first. Kelrin stared at him in shock. The Zyrethi lived by codes of honor and duty, but this human was willing to die for someone who had been his enemy just weeks ago. It was the kind of sacrifice that existed only in their oldest legends. When warriors would die for love rather than glory, you would die for this traitor? Vexenara asked, genuinely curious. I would die for someone I care about, Elias replied firmly. That's what humans do. Something shifted in Kelrin's chest, like a lock opening after years of being sealed. The feeling was terrifying and exhilarating, a warmth that started in her heart and spread through her entire body. She had learned human words for many things in recent weeks, but now she finally understood the meaning of one she'd only read about. Love. Stand down, Vexenara, Kelrin said, her voice carrying new authority. I invoke the right of challenge. The commander's eyes widened. The right of challenge was an ancient law rarely invoked that allowed any Zyrethi to demand single combat. To resolve a matter of honor, you would fight me in your condition? Kelrin's amber eyes blazed with determination. I would fight the entire Zyrethi fleet to protect him. This human showed me that there's more to existence than duty and death. He showed me what it means to choose love over fear. As she stood there, pale hair flowing around her shoulders, civilian clothes replacing armor, she looked nothing like the warrior who had fallen on the battlefield weeks ago. But Elias could see the strength in her stance, the fierce protectiveness in her eyes, and knew that she had never been more powerful than she was in this moment, fighting not for orders or honor, but for something she had chosen herself. Building bridges between worlds. New protocol. In the weeks following the historic first formal meeting, Commander Williams established new protocols for human-Vorthic interaction. The boundary remained in place for safety, but scheduled communication sessions were now officially sanctioned. Emma and Jake found themselves at the center of these diplomatic exchanges, serving as translators and cultural interpreters for both species, the children as ambassadors. Rodriguez struggled with pride and concern as he watched his daughter navigate complex interspecies negotiations. With the confidence of a seasoned diplomat, Emma's natural ability to understand Vorthic emotional communication had made her invaluable to the adult talks. Jake's gentler approach had proven perfect for building trust. With more cautious members of both species, advanced learning educational exchanges became more sophisticated, as adult supervision allowed for the sharing of more advanced concepts. Vorthic science revealed environmental management techniques that could revolutionize human agriculture. Human technology offered the Vorthic new perspectives on space exploration and energy generation. Both species discovered they had much to learn from each other. Cultural revelations. Sterling and Aurelius began bringing their human friends deeper insights into Vorthic society. Their civilization was built on principles of balance and sustainability that had allowed them to achieve advanced technology without environmental destruction. Family units were larger and more complex than human families, with extensive support networks that cared for young and elderly members. The art of communication, gestural language Emma and Jake had developed with their Vorthic friends became the foundation for a formal interspecies communication system. Linguist Dr. Rebecca Chen worked with Vorthic knowledge keepers to create comprehensive translation protocols. The children's instinctive understanding of emotional communication proved crucial to these efforts. Technology exchange under careful supervision. Limited technology sharing began between the species. Vorthic bioluminescent crystals were studied for their potential in human lighting and communication systems. Human solar collection technology fascinated the Vorthic, who saw possibilities for enhancing their own renewable energy systems without environmental impact. Growing understanding. Adult Vorthic, known as keepers, began sharing their philosophical approaches to science and technology. Their methods emphasized long-term thinking and environmental harmony in ways that challenged human assumptions about progress and development. These conversations often lasted for hours, with Emma and Jake serving as emotional interpreters when formal translation fell short. Challenges and resistance. Not all members of either species embraced the growing cooperation. Some human colonists worried about sharing too much technology with an alien species. Certain Vorthic groups expressed concerns about human expansion and its potential environmental impacts. Emma and Jake found themselves defending their friendship against skeptics from both sides. The children's influence despite adult concerns. The friendship between the human children and Vorthic juveniles continued to serve as proof that cooperation was possible. Their easy interaction and obvious affection for each other provided a powerful counterargument to those who claimed the species were too different to coexist peacefully. Environmental collaboration. The most successful early collaboration involved environmental restoration projects. Vorthic knowledge of local ecosystems combined with human technology allowed both species to heal damage caused by early colonization efforts. These joint projects created positive momentum for broader cooperation. Planning for the future began communicating concepts that Emma interpreted as plans for a shared future. The young Vorthik had visions of integrated communities where both species could live in harmony, while maintaining their distinct cultural identities. These conversations sparked imagination and hope among the adults of both species. Educational Integration Commander Williams proposed an experimental educational exchange program. Human children would learn Vorthik environmental science and philosophy, while young Vorthik would study human technology and space exploration. Emma and Jake volunteered immediately, eager to formalize their learning relationship with Azure. Sterling and Aurelius, the first joint project children, proposed and received approval for their first official joint project, a comprehensive study of the crystal formations that had originally brought them together. Working with adult supervisors from both species, they documented the crystal's properties and their role in Vorthik communication, networks, recognition of achievement. Both species leadership began to recognize the unique achievement of the 6 young friends. They had accomplished what formal diplomacy had struggled to achieve: genuine understanding and trust between species. Their friendship had become a model for future cooperation and a source of hope for both civilizations, preparing for greater changes. As the 4th chapter of their story concluded, Emma and Jake realized their adventure was far from over. The bonds they had formed with Azure, Sterling, and Aurelius had opened doorways to possibilities neither species had imagined. Their childhood friendship was evolving into something that would reshape the future of both civilizations on Kepler-4 for to be. The foundation they had built together would soon support structures neither species could have constructed alone.